When I first saw Monster Sanctuary, I let out oh god, another Pokemon game. Now, I won't tell you if that was joyful or one full of regret, but what I will say is that I did boot it up and gave it the good old college try. Once I did, I picked my first Digimon and I slowly came to realize this is not what I was expecting at all. See, reading is my second language, so I tend to not do it at all. And I didn't expect this game to be Pokemon mixed with Castlevania. Now, I know after what I just said, you may be clicking off of this video very soon, but wait, hear me out for a second. You are actually going to want to listen to this for about a few more minutes if you can, because on this episode of Should I Play Monster Sanctuary, you'll find out if this crazy collision of concepts actually makes a good game, or does this game just exist at the end of the day? First and foremost, let's tackle the elephant in the room for Monster Sanctuary, the Castlevania-inspired elements. Truth be told, when I first got into the game, they felt super tight, very polished, and honestly, it doesn't feel like a gimmick that just says, I'm here to make me look unique. Instead, it aids Monster Sanctuary in such a positive and fun way that I didn't mind exploring every branching path the game threw at me. Not to mention because the controls were so polished that there was never a time where I wanted to bang my head against the wall to just make a simple jump. And thankfully, there are no environmental hazards that actually hurt your team in Monster Sanctuary. I thought the Castlevania-inspired design's choice would have been the biggest hurdle for me to actually like this game, but on the contrary, it's really fun, coupled with this system yet enjoyable level design. This is a huge win for me. Now with that elephant tackled, we can talk about the main attraction of Monster Sanctuary, the actual monsters. Boy, are there a bunch of them. Around 80 as of writing this, with more to presumably come before this game gets its 1.0 release. For the most part, the design for the monsters are pretty basic. You have a slime monster, a goblin monster, and more along similar ideas. Like most capturing games, you can get almost everything you fight, but the capture mechanic in this game I am not a fan of. Truth be told, so I'll break it down for you. There's really no capturing in this game. Instead, you harvest eggs from monsters you fight to hatch a baby of your own. Imagine this. You're running around the game doing your nicely designed jumping puzzles. Boom. You see a squad of 3 monsters deep just strolling around in front of you. You see one you like, you go in the battle, you fight and win. Then the game ranks you on how well you did, from 1 to 5 stars, which determines the percent that a rare item would drop. The egg does not drop. The egg is a rare drop. Okay, you do all of that again. No egg. Once more for the people in the back. No egg. This was a common problem for me while I was playing. I am not a super fan of grinding, so I just kind of like to catch what I want and move on, making this part of Monster Sanctuary just tedious for me, to be honest. Talking combat, Monster Sanctuary decides to forego the 1 vs 1 battles and instead focuses on 3 vs 3 combat. It does this in a fun way that aids the player. After you run into the monster on a map, and before the battle, it shows the screen as to what they are strong against, weak against, and all the different elemental attacks they have at their disposal. Monster Sanctuary then gives you the time to either fight with your first 3 monsters in your lineup, or choose which 3 would be best to tackle the fight in front of them. The design choice here is a nice one, and it is subtle, but it makes a huge impact in the long run. Instead of memorizing all the attacks, weaknesses, and strengths of all the monsters you will be encountering in Monster Sanctuary, it just gives you the choice and saves you both time and frustration, which is honestly invaluable to me. Inside of the actual battle, it reminds me a lot of a typical JRPG, where your team goes, then the enemy team goes. From what I've seen, your team always goes first, which gives you a big advantage in these fights and also makes them end a bit quicker. When it's your turn, you could pick any of your 3 monsters to act. After acting, a combo number increases, which causes your other monsters to do increased damage. This number increases again after your second, so saving your hardest hitting monster for last is the way to go. The abilities in this game are separated into 2 categories, either magic or physical, and from that they are divided further into specific elements: fire, ground, earth, electric, and normal. In Monster Sanctuary, to actually use an attack, you spend mana, which is a resource that your monsters generate every time it's your turn. The mana is used to use a learned skill that your monster has. You can also just use a basic attack which costs no mana. You can also switch your monsters or use items too. Buffs and debuffs are plentiful here, from dots on the enemies to weakness. There is a bit of everything, and buffs are standard: more damage, you get an extra attack at the end of your turn, stuff like that. There's more combat than just 3v3 random battles. There are also champion battles, kind of like the boss fights of Monster Sanctuary, where you square off versus one super beefed up monsters. But truth be told, that's about all they are. They aren't really unique in the sense that you can find just normal versions of them in the game and actually acquire their eggs and add the champion, well, the not champion version to your team. The third and final type of battle in Monster Sanctuary are the keeper battles, where you face off against a fellow monster tamer to see which person has the better team. These fights are rough. They generally involve using all 6 of your monsters to fight off 6 other monsters, so they can last a very long time. Besides that, they follow the normal rules of just win the fight. While awesome, the combat has few flaws too. My major one being how long some of the battles take, upward of 10 minutes in case of the keeper battles, where one side just stalls by putting up shields and poisoning you, so you have to stall heal and put up dots. The developers added a thing called Infinity, which is a stacking buff where you do more damage if a battle lasts too long. But I find that teams that start the stalling are just so much more far ahead. It's hard to come back even with this buff. Another thing is the champion monsters just have way too much health, forcing you to put dots on them which do percentage based damage. I don't know, I just don't like that because your regular attacks just do dog shit to them. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I absolutely don't find dots fun to play with or against. After battle you get XP, will be given to all 6 of your members, so you don't have to switch train them at all. Another fun thing I didn't mention earlier because I just couldn't find a spot is that you can hold on to every monster you hatch in a sort of back row position, but you can only use 6 in battle. This is because monsters have an ability on the overworld, such as gliding, fire breathing, and attack to break walls. Basically abilities to help you get around or find secret items, and a few for actual progression in Monster Sanctuary. So you get your XP and your monster just leveled up. What happens next? My favorite part about Monster Sanctuary actually. Every level your monster gains a skill point, which can be spent on a personalized skill tree for every monster, which gives you a lot of different ways to make them. It's really fun to try a myriad of different skills, and if you don't like the skills you pick, then you could just use a skill resetter to regain all skill points used. But you can't just run down one skill tree, at least not right away. There is a level requirement to access each row of the skill tree. Generally, monsters have 4 columns of skills, but I have seen a couple with 5. The skill trees as of writing this aren't all filled out, but they give you more than enough past level 20 to fill it out as you desire. Another way besides applying skill points to your monsters to power them up is to equip them with either weapons or accessories, both of which give different stats or effects, and you can even power up both to either +1 or +2, and so on by getting crafting materials from around the world and going back to Blacksmith and Keeper Tower to upgrade them. The last way to buff your monsters up is to feed them. Your monsters could eat up to 3 things, and the food you get from either chests or monster drops give different effects to help you out along the way. You may be thinking to yourself now, wow, that's a lot of features, that has to be all of them, right? Wrong. In the Keeper's Tower, there's a room where you can fight all the previous champion monsters, so you can improve on the stars you've gotten, so you could try to get better drops from them. You could PvP, but I feel like stall is king, so I passed on that. There's a raptor you could ride. He is a monster that you could get for your team, but he is my son. The game has a story where you try to rank up in the Keeper group by fighting the champions, and then as you keep going, the story actually reveals itself. I don't really want to go into it too much because it doesn't really start getting going until halfway through the current game, and I don't want to spoil anything of that. It honestly is, though, to me, a background element of the game, because, well, I want to catch the monsters more than I want to read the story. There's another NPC in the Keeper Tower that takes all your extra monsters you don't want for the Tower Army, as they call it. It's just basically for giving you items, but on the same thought, if you want to collect them all, I would suggest keeping 3 of each. And one final thing, some monsters actually evolve and others do not. There is a lot to do in this game, and I've probably missed a couple of things, and no doubt in my mind I've missed a couple of things, but for the most part, that is everything. So should you play Monster Sanctuary? I'm gonna have to say yes if you love the collecting monsters JRPG games. I also have to give a good mention to how much I love the exploration in this game. Even going back to previous zones, I'm not getting bored at all. It's just running around. It's just so great. It's so fluid. It's so fun. One of my biggest problems though with Monster Sanctuary is the battle system, honestly. They just drag on for so long. I think a good fix for this would be lowering the shields, or making it so if you hit a monster with their weakness, they take more damage. But besides that, I love this game. It's really fun. The collecting is awesome. I wouldn't recommend this game if you aren't into the JRPG style games. It has very similar elements, and if that just bores you, you should stay away from this. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, click that subscribe, or if you didn't, tell me why in the comments section. See you around.